Hello investors, welcome back to the Trend Trader channel. In today's video, I'm going to give you an update on the dividend portfolio and also share two companies with you. First, we're going to look at transaction capital. Yesterday, they released the integrated report for the previous financial year. And then we'll also look at our recent addition to the dividend portfolio. We recently bought Sasol shares sometime last week, and yesterday we added more into our position. But before we go there, someone on TikTok asked, they said that this person said that he has kids, he wants to invest for the kids. So the eldest kid is about 12 years old, but there are some other younger kids. So basically this person was asking which stock can he buy and hold long term. I think he wants to generate some money for his or her kids. So now my answer to that question is that I don't have a stock that I plan to hold long term. I just hold stocks for as long as they are on an uptrend. Once they stop being on an uptrend, I sell those stocks. But one way that a person can make some money in the stock market, especially if they're investing long term, is to invest in ETFs. You know that we always talk about index tracking, low cost ETFs. So we have a video in our YouTube channel. The title of the video is how can you use EasyEquities, or how can you use Vanguard ETFs, Satrix ETF to build wealth on EasyEquities. So make sure that you find that video there. In that video, we speak about the Satrix top 40 ETFs, but also we speak about Vanguard ETF. So if you are one of those people, you want something to buy for long term, we recommend that you consider investing in ETFs, because index tracking ETFs, we know that the index over a long time, it has a positive bias, meaning that the value of the index is more likely to go up than to go down. Despite market drawdowns, there will be market drawdowns. The stock can crash at any time. Sometimes even if there's no crash, the share price can just move sideways. In this case, we're talking about ETFs. So the net asset value of an ETF can also move sideways. So make sure that you check that video so that you can see what other options you have if you want to invest long term. All right. So another thing that I would like to ask you, if you're a returning viewer to this channel and you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Even if you're a new viewer, please consider subscribing. Once you've watched this video, if you find value from it, please like that video to show some appreciation. When you like or when you subscribe to the channel, you really help the channel to grow, right? Okay, now let's go to the order of the day. Like I said, transaction capital released the annual report for the previous financial year yesterday. For those that invest with EasyEquities, or not necessarily EasyEquities, because it's transaction capital that sent the report to the investors. So it's an integrated report for the year that ended on the 30th of September 2021. So there are a few things that are interested me in this report. Those who don't know, transaction capital is an owner of SA Taxi. They have about 74.5% stake there in SA Taxi. The other 25% is with Santaco. Santaco, it's a corporation of taxi owners, a cooperative, not corporation, cooperative of taxi owners. So that 25% is a BE share scheme that they have with Santaco. But they also own 74% of We Buy Cars. We Buy Cars normally sell used cars at different prices, different kinds of cars. Some are good cars. Some people have complained about the cars that they bought, but something to keep in mind is that We Buy Cars do classify the cars in terms of quality. There are A cars and there are B cars. So if you want to buy a used car from We Buy Cars, make sure that you pay attention on the sticker whether you are buying an A car or a B car, and also make sure that you read the terms and conditions so that you find yourself being surprised there. Then they also own 100% of transaction risk, which I believe it's an insurance company that they use to insure the taxis and the many sedans that they also sell. The sedans are mostly used for e-hailing services. It could be Uber, Taxify, or Bolt. I'm not sure if South Africa already has Didi, but yeah, they also sell cars, small cars for e-hailing services. So what I see from this report is that they speak of robust performance. We look at the core headlines earnings, they increased, or they had core headline earnings of 1 billion, a 264% increase compared to the financial year of 2020. And then the headline earnings per share of 1.47 rand, which is great. Again, it's another 234% increase. They paid a dividend of 52 cents, but in 2020 they didn't pay a dividend. So it's nice to see that there's a jump in dividend there. So the final dividend of 33 cents was paid in line with the dividend policy, which is good. I've been holding transaction capital for a while now, and it was nice to receive that dividend. And then, as you can see, in terms of dividends, in 2020 they missed a dividend there, but they only have earnings per share. And then the closing share price is somewhere around 41 rand at the time of the report. The share price is now greater than 41 rand per share. But what is nice to see is that the company at some point is able to increase the headline earnings per share, but also it's able to increase the value of the dividend that they pay, even though there was a decline from 61 cents in 2019 to 52 cents in 2021. But it's good to see that there's that dividend that keeps on coming there. We expect that the company is still going to continue to pay more dividends in future. So you can get that report there on their website, and then you can decide which part of the report that you want to get there. But if you look at the summary or summarized consolidated statement there, let me see what I wanted to see. All right. So when you look at the profit for the year, they have a profit of about 2.4 billion. But before we get there, we need to see where that profit came from. We can see from this consolidated income statement, they had interest income of 2.6 billion. And then when you start to subtract everything there, they were left with a profit of 2.4 billion after paying tax, right? And then this gives an earnings per share of about R3.38, which is good to see that there's a growth in the earnings per share. So I like to see growth in the companies that I buy for dividends. And also, like I said, this company already paid a dividend of 52 cents. So at the moment, if we look at the chart, what you can see is that the share price is on a nice uptrend there. The share price, it reached an all-time high of about 48 rand per share before pulling back to the 50-day moving average, forming a range there, of which it broke above this range. Then it attempted to continue to trade higher, even went above as 50 rand per share. But at this moment, we see this pullback. So what I'm expecting that the share price is going to find support somewhere at 44 rand per share. And if it does find support there, then I expect that the share price is going to come here, find support, and then continue to trade higher. So I haven't added into this position, but I do have a transaction capital now as part of my dividend portfolio. As you can see, the company does pay dividends, and then it was only in May 2020 where the earnings were lower compared to the previous period. So I'm happy to have this stock in my portfolio, right? So now let's move on to the stock that I wanted to talk about today. But before we go to that stock, I need to first talk about the reason why I think that stock is performing well. So we've been tracking oil for quite some time now. Okay, let me make sure that I get the proper chart of oil that I normally use. Right, so we're talking about the price of Brent crude. So I've been watching the chart. Remember, in the past, I have made the video, not necessarily for the dividends, but I said that I first bought oil as it broke above this level that was around $43 per barrel. I held that trade all the way to about $70. It made me some nice money there. That was one of the trades that gave me confidence, helped build my confidence as a trade. But that's all in the past. Since then, I've been watching oil on the sidelines. As we saw that it peaked around $75. Then it sort of traded sideways, even though it went as high as testing $83 per barrel before pulling back to this 75 support level. And then recently it came back above the 50-day moving average. And then we expected that the price of oil was going to come back and retest this level there. So a few weeks ago, we made a tweet to say that if the price of Brent crude does break above $87 per barrel, it is possible that it can go, let me change the time frame to a higher time frame. We said that if the price of oil can manage to break above $87, it's possible that it can come here and test the $100 region and even go as far as $120 per barrel, which is going to be bad news for South African car drivers, as it will mean that the fuel price can also increase. Right, but at this moment we saw yesterday that the price of Brent crude, it broke above $87 per barrel. The current price is currently trading at $88.52 there, again to show that there is a strength in that particular breakout. So we are happy to see this breakout, even though we are worried as members or as citizens of South Africa. We know that we might have difficulties there when it comes to fuel prices, but we are happy to see this move. For those people that have CFD trading accounts, they probably have long positions on oil there to take advantage of this breakout. But then this breakout also meant that there was some activity on Sasol. But before we go to the Sasol chart, let's go to the Sasol website so that you can have an idea. For those people who don't have an idea at this moment, what does Sasol do? So Sasol is a petrochemical company. It started in South Africa. Remember, in South Africa we have coal, and then the people back in the day, they decided to use a bit of science to generate petrochemical companies. So basically, it's just a Fischer-Tropsch reaction. So they take that, they burn the coal, create a lot of carbon, and then they derivatize those carbons to create different products, from fertilizer to small molecules like liquids, acetone, stuff like that, but also fuel, whether it's oil, kerosene, petrol that we use in our cars. So Sasol is really a nice science company for those that are scientists. Yeah, it's a company that they should consider looking at. So they've got plenty of product there, but you can find information there on the Sasol website. The reason I went to the Sasol website is because I wanted to download the recent financial statement so that you can see the ins and outs of the business. But a nice summary of Sasol, what Sasol is, you will find it on MoneyWeb. We previously said that MoneyWeb is one of the websites that you can use to find information about companies, right? The way that they describe it, they say that Sasol is a global chemical and energy company, and then they use their knowledge and expertise in different technology and processes into world scale operating facilities, right? But then again, like I said, it's a chemical company. They convert a lot of coal, even though now they're also involved in natural gas, but the foundation of the business was from coal, right? So you can come to MoneyWeb and look at all this nice summary there, but I will just look at the annual report. So this is the income statement that ended 30 June 2021. The next general meeting, according to MoneyWeb, is coming on the 22nd of February. Not general meeting, interim result, because we need to first see those interim results first. The AGM is expected to be somewhere in November 2022. Right. So what do we see from the income statement of Sasol? We see that they had a turnover or a revenue of 201 million rand, which is about 13.1 million US dollars there, but we're just gonna focus in the rands there. So they brought in 200 million there. And then we subtract everything there. Then we see that there's earnings or loss for the year. So they had a profit of 10.52 million. Well, I wonder if this is in billions. I hope that it's in billions, but yeah. As we can see here, they have a profit for the year of about 10.5 million. But I really think that it's in billions. As you can see that they say that the rents are in millions there, right? So this profit for the year attributed in terms of earnings per share to about 14 rand 57 cent, depending on the US dollar rand exchange rate at that time. As you can see in US cent, it was about 95 US cent there, which translated to about 14 rand 57 cent. It's good because if you compare to the previous period on 2020, they reinstated or they restated, there was a loss of about 148 rand per share there. So if you were a Sasol shareholder at around or just before 2020, you would have lost a significant amount of money. But yeah, it depends on your approach really. For me, I recently bought a Sasol at 147 rand per share. So I'm a new investor compared to the old investors. So you can see that the company has generated a nice revenue there. And then also they are still a profitable company despite the challenges. We saw that they've got Lake Charles chemical plant that never really worked well. There are plenty of reports regarding Lake Charles that you can just Google and find more information about that. But the way that we're looking at it at the current moment, you see that Sasol is a profitable company, even though they suspended the dividend in that particular year because the board felt that Sasol wasn't ready to really pay a dividend. So it's a bit disappointing. As you can see, Sasol has a 0% dividend yield. That's because they last paid a dividend in February 2019. That dividend was 5.90 rand per share, but that's been over 3 years ago. So now we will see when they come up with that interim result in February if they are going to declare a dividend. I'm hopeful that they can declare dividend, especially since Sasol is profitable. Then if you look at this MoneyWeb chart, if you look at a period of over 1 year, Sasol is up by over 84%. But if you have been holding Sasol for the past 5 years, then you are still deep in red. You are down 26%, right? Okay, so now we can go and look at the Sasol chart and then just walk you through why I bought more Sasol. But remember, I said that it also has that special relationship with the price of oil, right? I said that I first bought Sasol when it broke above this level. That was around 140 rand per share. So I've been happily holding a Sasol. I didn't buy Sasol at 20 rands, but obviously I envy those people that bought a Sasol near 20 rand because now they've generated a lot of money for themselves. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm happy that I bought after the confirmation of an uptrend. As we can see, there were times where Sasol has been moving sideways and then breaking above that level, right? So we normally say that if a stock move up, there's a time where it's going to consolidate, forming support and resistance before breaking above this level, and then it can trade higher. Or what it can do as well, once it break above this range, it starts to create another range before it break above this range. So in this case, what you see with this price action, we actually see this. It first formed this consolidation, broke above this level, then formed another consolidation. Now it's attempting to break above this level. So that's the price action that we are currently trading in there. So as you can see, we plotted this box when the share price attempted to break above 300 rand before pulling back to the 50-day exponential moving average, which also coincide with the previous breakout level there. So we're anticipating that at some point, Sasol will find a catalyst that will help push the share price to break above this level. Like we said yesterday, the price of Brent crude was above 87 US dollars per barrel, and we believe that that was the catalyst that it needed. If you look at the volume there, it will see a large spike of volume, meaning that this breakout was supported by buyers. Remember, the share price yesterday was below was below 300 rand per share. It was around about 290 rand per share, but the people they managed to push that price by over 16 rand per share. We saw that Sasol was up by about 6.25%, which was about 19 rand per share. It was good to see that, especially if you had a position, your equity curve was bumped up nicely a bit. So now, like we said that in the past, let me just zoom out a bit so that you can see why we believe that Sasol can reach 250 rand, 350 rand per share. So now the reason why we are saying that is because we are looking at this level here, which could be the potential resistance level. This was the resistance level that we're looking at. That's where the share price is currently at. So once Sasol breaks above this level, then we expect the share price to continue to move all the way beyond. But the first resistance is somewhere around once it breaks above 330 rand per share, then we can expect it to go all the way to about 360 rand per share. Then if it does break 360 rand per share, then the sky is the limit really, because if you look at the other resistance level there, they are around 480, then we see the top there around 560, and then the all-time high, which is just about around 640 rand per share. So in the very long term, we don't know how long it's going to take. Don't ask us. We are also going to sit on the side and see how the stock perform. It's possible that the share price can go back above 600 rand per share, but it's also possible that the move can fail. Anything is possible. That's why we always have a stop loss. But at the moment, the way we see things, the short-term target is somewhere between 330 rand per share to 360 rand per share. That's the price action that we are looking at this current moment. So if we zoom in a bit, looking at the daily chart, like I said, we see this breakout. So how did I play this trade? I bought as the stock broke above this level just before the market closed yesterday. I got in at about 310 rand per share. You see the share price is currently at 309 rand 58 cent. So my stop loss is just below this consolidation level here. So the reason why I have my stop loss here, just in case this breakout move it fails to materialize and then the share price come back to the range, then I can limit my loss, because I don't want to sit with the stock. If the move failed, then now I'm coming back to retest this support level at 240. That is just going to waste my time and also increase a loss in my position there. That is why I prefer to have a tight stop there. But then again, at the current stop loss of about 208 rand per share, I'm still targeting that 350, which just gives me just below 2R, positive 2R. Remember, we always recommend that whenever you take risk, you need to get at least the potential reward to be 2 times the risk that you are taking. Right. So now that's the trade that we are taking there on Sasol. Remember, this now is part of our dividend portfolio, even though the stock does not pay dividend at the current moment. As you can see there, just before March, we believe that's going to be before the end of February. We're expecting the interim result there. So what we hope to see is that the stock is going to beat the projected earnings. We expect that the stock is still going to be profitable. Well, it's hard to say whether the board is going to declare a dividend or not. It will also depend on the debt level that Sasol has. So now if you go back to our dividend portfolio, so that you can see, this is just the summary of our dividend portfolio. As you can see, we still have a F.I.R.E. We've been holding F.I.R.E. for a while now. We have Remgro, we have Redefine, we have ShopRite, we added a transaction capital in the past. The position is currently up by 11.55%. We are happy with that, but it's also the smallest position in our dividend. We have about 8% of our capital allocated to transaction capital. Then we have Sasol, which we just touched now at this moment. We have about 11% that is allocated to Sasol. You can see the dividend yield is at 0%. And then so far the position, like I said, we bought Sasol yesterday at 310, meaning that we're adding to our already existing position, and then they took our average price to about 272 Rand per share, and then the current share price of Sasol is 309 Rand per share. So our Sasol position is up by 13%, but if you consider that we first bought Sasol at around 140%, then our return of the first batch of Sasol shares that we bought is over 100%. But yeah, it is what it is. We are working with what we have at this current moment. So the value of the portfolio, as you see there, it's now about 69,000. If you look at the thumbnail, we always update the value of the portfolio using the current share price and whether we buy or sell shares. Remember, we started at about 49,000, not to say that in terms of capital appreciation, the value of the portfolio has increased by about 20,000. No, we've got stocks in our portfolio, total portfolio, and then upgrade or demote some of the positions into dividend yield. The difference between the typical shares that we hold in that portfolio versus the shares that we hold in the dividend yield, the shares that we allocate for dividend portfolio, it's some of the shares that we see that they have a potential to be in a long-term trend, and also while they are in the long-term trend, we can be able to benefit in dividends. But the other stocks there, it's just stocks, even though some of them are in an uptrend, some of them they do pay dividends. We don't really have a high capital allocation there. So we treat them as speculative positions. As soon as our target is hit, we exit, or maybe if the price action starts to show that the stock is failing to show us characteristics of a stock in an uptrend, meaning we don't see a series of higher highs and higher lows, or maybe the stock is failing to find support at key levels, then we exit those positions, and then we go establish positions in other securities. So that's the difference between those two stocks. So yeah, for today, I just wanted to talk about transaction capital. You can go to the transaction capital and find their report there, read and see what the company has in store for the investors. And then we also touched a bit of Sasol there. We spoke about the price of Brent crude, and then we look at the Sasol chart, looking at the trading levels that we are going to trade. So we are currently long on Sasol. Again, like I said, we increased our capital allocation to, in Sasol. As you can see now, we have about 11.37% that is invested there in Sasol. Well, at this moment, we are happy that the return on investment for all our dividend yield is green, but anything is possible. As you can see, redefined there is just barely on profit. It's up by 5.34%, and it's one of our large capital allocation. But the nice thing about Redefine is the dividend yield is greater than 10%, and we got a nice dividend from it in November. So we're still going to hold Redefine as long as the share price remains above the 200-day moving average. So that's it today. This is what I wanted to share with you. Then again, if you go to our YouTube channel, don't forget, for those people, we have this video where we speak about using ETFs to generate generational wealth and build passive income. And for those people that love that financial independence, retire early, you can see how you can use these ETFs to bring yourself closer to that goal. Last Sunday, we had the live question and answer session. here on YouTube. Some people pitched in, we discussed stocks, ETFs, risk and money management, and then we touched a bit on different investing and charting platforms. So if you missed that Q&A session, you can see that we have that video there. Go and check that video out there. It may answer some of your questions, especially questions regarding the use of EasyEquities. And then the latest video, well, not this one, we now finalized the 10,000 stock trading challenge as we closed all the positions. In the previous video, we still had some trades that were still open. So now we closed those positions. So now we gave the final update there. Go watch that video so that you can see how much money we made over that 6.5 months period there, so that you can have an idea of how profitable the approach can be. Sometimes, remember, past performance does not determine the future performance. We may have been lucky, but we believe that we had positioned ourselves so that we can be able to take advantage of the opportunities that the market brought us in year 2021. And then also, you can still go back to this video and see some of the research tools that we recommended that you can use to do your own research. Some of the tools include a MoneyWeb website, ETF sa.co.za, where you can find a lot of information about ETFs. And then also you can find information about share data, where you can find stock exchange news services. Short, it's called Sense. Basically, it's announcement coming from different companies. That is where you always find information about the companies that we invest in. Once we are in a company, then we're interested in the announcement, whether they are talking about interim result, final result, their director dealings, or their cautionary announcement. That is where we find that information. Basically, what we're trying to say is that the YouTube channel does have a lot of information there. So you do deserve, it does deserve a subscription from you so that you can get a lot of information. And then if you are a subscriber, not sure if you can be able to view this if you are not a subscriber, but if you go under the community tab there, we can also post some stuff. As you can see, 19 hours ago, we posted this Sasol trade that we just shared with you. So the people that were already subscribers and also that have clicked that bell notification, they should have received this communication 19 hours ago. But what we're saying is that Sasol was trading, at that time, Sasol was trading at 300 Rand per share. And then Brent crude was above $87 per barrel. And then we were wondering if the price of Brent crude can have an impact on the Sasol share price. And we said that if it does, then maybe it can help to push the share price of Sasol all the way to 350, right? So just before the market closed, that's when we bought a Sasol. Well, it would have been nice to buy Sasol at about 300 Rand per share, but we were able to get in at about 310 Rand per share. So you see, we do communicate a lot. We did. Sometimes we're just lazy to update this, but yeah, under the community tab, you can still find a lot of things there. So yeah, that's it for today. If you enjoyed this content, make sure that you like this video. If you haven't subscribed, we would like to ask you to consider subscribing. We try to bring as much information as we can into this YouTube channel. We will see you on the next video.